COVID-19 pandemic has been difficult on all of us for a variety of reasons, but these are definitely experiences that based on the past year, I'm going to be carrying with me for the rest of my life. So I want to share them with you. The first one is live out the Stockdale Paradox. So I'm actually reading this book called Good to Great, which is about companies that go from being like good, decent companies into great companies that are outperforming the stock market by like 20 times and just have insane amounts of growth and are really valued companies today that we've seen grow over the past 50 years. So anyways, in this book, one of the things that Jim Collins, the author, talks about is the Stockdale Paradox. And so this is a story about a prisoner of war. His name was Stockdale, and he was a prisoner of war during the Vietnam War. He was stuck in this prison for years, did not know when he was going to get out, and he had to lead a group of his men through this trying time of not knowing what was going on, what was happening. Obviously, the prisoner of war experience was probably different in a lot of ways, but in some ways I see it as similar to COVID-19 because none of us really knew when it was going to end, what it was going to look like, what's going to happen type things. And that's the same thing that they were feeling in the prison. Now in the book, they said that the optimists actually didn't end up lasting long in the prison because the optimists would say things like, oh, we're going to get out by Christmas, or oh, we're going to get out by New Year's. And those dates would roll around and then it wouldn't happen. And I saw the same thing happen in the pandemic of like, oh, we're going to be back, in July. And then, oh, we're going to be back in November. Oh, we're gonna be back in January. And like all these dates kept coming and going. What was really cool about this story is what Stockdale did. So he confronted the brutal facts of his reality. He was like, I don't know when this is gonna end and I know that this sucks. And he told that to all of his soldiers. He was like, look, I don't know when this is gonna end. This could go on forever. It could go on for years. It could go on for the rest of our lives. I don't know. Right? But the one thing that I do know is that in the end we will prevail. Okay? So he was like, I know that we are strong, that we're not going to give up mentally, we're not going to give in to them. So we will prevail in that sense. So the Stockdale Paradox is this idea of confronting brutal facts and being like, this is the situation, this is not a good situation, but then also always believing that we will prevail. And so I've started to try to use this in my life with COVID because schools are still not back in person for me. It's been over a year. And things are looking brighter, but still don't really know what's gonna happen. There are new strains coming up. Some of the vaccines aren't working as well as others. Like there are things going on that are brutal facts of reality of like, we don't know when this is gonna end. We don't really know what life is gonna look like, if it's ever going to, be back to normal. So that's the brutal fact of the reality is. On the flip side, the paradox is that I know that I will prevail. I know that you watching this will prevail if you keep your mind strong. It's all about that mental game. And just a few examples of what I've done during this time is really just focusing on honing in on my teaching, trying to provide the best education that I can with the resources that I have. And to be honest, like looking at my students' test scores and how they've evolved and their writing over this past year, they have been learning. So that's really good. That's not just me, that's all of the teachers in my grade level and at my school have really been putting in the work. And so that's kind of the idea that we're living out of like, we will prevail. Like we don't know what's gonna happen. This is a pretty bad, dire situation. But in the end, we will prevail because we're flexible. So now I wanna go into a few things that I learned from this experience. The first one is that in an unknown situation like COVID, nobody knows what they're doing. And so what's really important is to share ideas. Something that I noticed was when I would share with other teachers like, oh, this is something that I've been doing that has worked really well. I'm getting a lot of engagement from students. A lot of other teachers would then jump up and want to share as well. Same thing in my personal life. If I'm like sharing like a self-care practice that I might be doing, a lot of my friends will be like, oh, I've also tried this self-care practice, you might want to try that. And so I noticed that by me being vulnerable and sharing things that I'm doing, other people are also more likely to share. And it just creates this atmosphere of collaboration, which has been really cool. Before the pandemic, and I guess like earlier in my life, I was more hesitant to share with other people what I was trying or maybe what I was going through. But this experience has definitely showed me that sharing those things is really good. It builds strong connections, it builds collaboration, and everybody benefits. The next thing is to embrace and use your strengths. In my case, technology is a huge strength for me. So with COVID, that ended up working out really well. Technology and videography, I guess, too, because those are two things that I've really leaned on heavily during this time. But I think just in general, identifying what your strengths are and then offering them to the group of like how you can contribute, I think is really helpful. So like I make videos for my school now, advertising different events, and with a few other teachers that also are into like videography and that type of stuff. And other teachers have taken on other tasks that they're really good at. For example, I hate like back-end stuff, but other teachers love doing that stuff, so they've taken that on. Just little things like that, just like really leaning into our strengths, I think has been really helpful. And then finally, something else that I learned was to embrace the good in the situation. This pandemic situation has been rough for a variety of reasons, as I've already said, but there are some good things in the situation. One thing is that I have more free time since I'm at home. I can spend more time by myself, for myself, and that has allowed me to really develop my self-care practices, my morning and nighttime routines, and just kind of grow a lot as a person. And I'm gonna be sharing all of those things in upcoming videos. But anyways, the point is that this has been a huge learning experience for all of us. I hope that some of these lessons that I've shared with you might help you, or you might relate to them as well. But just remember, this time is rough. I know we still don't know when it's gonna end, but we will prevail because we are strong. You are strong if you are watching this. I hope you have a great rest of your day. Don't forget to subscribe if you're new, because I post new videos every week, and I will see you in the next video. Peace.